How did the Battle of La Roche-Derrien 1347 become the campaign that forced the French to respect English professional tactics? Beneath the heavy grey skies of Brittany, the Joudy River flows past a town destined for fire and blood. Here, the professional military machine of King Edward III prepares to face the immense resources and chivalric prestige of the Valois crown. This conflict for the ducal coronet transforms a local feud into a primary theatre of European dominance. This opening maneuver set the stage for a tactical miracle that shattered the French command. What made this small port on the Joudy River such a vital prize for the English crown? La Roche-Derrien sits upon a rugged rocky outcrop, a centre for the lucrative flax trade, where workshops and warehouses line the water. Its deep water access provides the essential bridgehead needed for the English strategy of economic devastation across the French interior. Controlling this fortification allows for a constant flow of logistics and reinforcements from across the Channel. This strategic positioning forced Charles of Blois to commit the largest field army he had ever assembled to the town walls. Why did the French claimant believe he could finally crush the English presence in northern Brittany? Charles of Blois, known as the saint for his religious fervor, arrives with nearly 5,000 men-at-arms and Genoese crossbowmen. He views his claim as a divine mandate, wearing a painful hair shirt beneath his armor while directing his massive host. His presence signals a shift from small skirmishes to a decisive siege, intended to lure his rival into a final trap. This overwhelming numerical advantage convinced the French that victory was a matter of divine will and heavy steel. How did Charles of Blois intend to neutralize the devastating power of the English longbow? He implements a tactical solution that is both innovative and rigid by dividing his army into 4 separate fortified camps. Each camp guards a gate of the town, protected by deep trenches and a high palisade to shield his men from descending arrows. He believes that archers cannot kill what they cannot see, and so he hides his strength behind timber and earth. This defensive posture effectively neutralized the missile advantage and forced the English to fight on French terms. Where did the French commander create his perfect killing zone? To ensure the relief force had no cover, Charles orders the surrounding countryside leveled with brutal efficiency. Trees are felled, hedges are removed, and stone walls are raised until the land is as flat as a tabletop. This scorched earth approach leaves the approaching infantry exposed to the bolts of 2,000 Genoese crossbowmen waiting behind their fortifications. This transformation of the terrain turned the outskirts of the town into a lethal trap where any advance would be met with a storm of steel. Why did the garrison of La Roche-Derrien face a nightmare of mechanical terror? High above the siege lines, 9 massive catapults pound the town day and night with relentless precision. The largest siege engine hurls 300-pound stones that shatter the timber houses and crumble the ancient masonry of the upper town. Within the walls, the sounds of destruction are a constant backdrop to the fear of the inhabitants who remember the massacre of Quimper. This psychological pressure tested the resolve of the defenders as the town slowly disintegrated under the weight of stone. How did Richard Totsham maintain the defense of a garrison that was outnumbered 20-1? The English governor refuses to yield even as prominent citizens and his own wife beg for a peaceful surrender. He knows that his 250 men-at-arms are the only thing standing between the town and a systemic slaughter. Totsham relies on the resilience of the local community, including the ragpickers who speak their own secret language in the lower quarters. This steadfast refusal to break bought the precious time needed for a relief column to begin its desperate march. What did Sir Thomas Dagworth find when he analyzed the strategic puzzle at the Begar Monastery? The professional commander realizes that a direct approach along the main road is a recipe for total annihilation. His tiny force of 300 men-at-arms and 400 longbowmen cannot hope to storm the fortified camps or face the heavy cavalry in the open killing zone. Dagworth looks beyond traditional chivalry, seeking a pragmatic solution that utilizes the terrain and the cover of darkness. This calculated assessment led to the decision to launch a rare and dangerous night assault. How would a professional soldier bypass the French scouts and the Black Castle across the river? Dagworth decides to abandon his horses and move his entire column on foot through the rugged terrain. He recruits 3 local guides who know the secret paths through the marshes and the dense woods along the east bank of the Jaude. By avoiding the main roads, the English can bypass the Franco-Breton outposts and approach the eastern camp in total silence. This rejection of the traditional mounted charge allowed the English to vanish into the shadows of the Breton night. Why did the English column begin its 9-mile march at the stroke of midnight? The tension is palpable as the soldiers move through the damp air, maintaining a strict system of signs and countersigns to avoid killing each other in the dark. Silence is their primary weapon as they navigate the treacherous marshes and thick undergrowth on foot. Every clink of mail and every snapped twig feels like a thunderclap to the men moving toward the siege lines. This stealthy approach allowed the relief force to reach the edge of the woods without alerting the main French camp. Where did the diversionary force strike to draw French attention away from the true objective? Dagworth sends a small group of camp followers and soldiers toward the western gate with instructions to make a tremendous din. They blow trumpets, bang drums, and shout into the night to convince the French that a massive attack is crossing the river. The garrison at the Black Castle hears the noise and prepares for a battle that will never arrive at their gates. This deceptive maneuver successfully pulled the French scouts' focus toward the bridge and away from the silent woods. How did the Battle of La Roche-Derrien 1347 enter its most chaotic phase as dawn broke on June 20th? The main English force emerges from the trees and slams into the eastern camp, where Charles of Blois is stationed. The surprise is not absolute, as scouts had caught wind of movement, but the suddenness of the infantry assault creates immediate panic. In the cramped spaces between tents and siege engines, the longbow loses its range and the fight becomes a brutal melee of steel. This shift to hand-to-hand combat neutralized the archers but favored the tenacity of the English men-at-arms. Why did Charles of Blois throw himself into the thick of the fighting without his armor? The ascetic claimant emerges from his tent with a religious mania, believing his divine mandate will shield him from English blades. He rallies his men-at-arms, and for a terrifying moment, the English gamble seems to have failed as they are pushed back toward the woods. The French numbers begin to tell, and the narrow confines of the camp prevent the English from deploying their full strength. This counterthrust placed the entire relief column on the verge of a disastrous and bloody retreat. How did the capture of Sir Thomas Dagworth change the momentum of the desperate struggle? In the swirling confusion of the early light, the English commander is wounded and forced to surrender to his enemies. Charles believes he has won the battle and the duchy, momentarily lowering his guard to savor the victory over his professional rival. The English soldiers are momentarily leaderless, facing an uphill battle against a prepared and reinforced enemy. This temporary French success masked the true danger that was about to emerge from within the town walls. What did Richard Totsham see from the town walls as the sun began to rise? The governor watches the flicker of torchlight and the clash of armor in the eastern camp, realizing that the relief effort is failing. He makes the most critical decision of the entire campaign by ordering the gates to be thrown open for a desperate sally. Every available man, from the professional garrison to the townspeople, prepares to join the fight. This decision to commit the final reserves turned a failing relief mission into a synchronized assault on the French rear. Why did the ragpickers and flax workers join the professional men-at-arms in the charge? Hundreds of townspeople arm themselves with axes, mallets, and farming implements, fueled by the fear of a systemic massacre. They surge out of the gatehouse and slam into the back of Charles's camp, just as the English relief force begins to rally. The sight of common butchers and carpenters defeating armored knights creates a psychological breaking point for the Franco-Breton forces. This intervention from the citizenry effectively trapped the flower of French chivalry between two hungry blades. How did the arrival of the garrison in the rear break the French resolve? The French forces, who believed they were moments from total victory, are suddenly assailed from both directions in the narrow siege works. The English soldiers rescue Dagworth from his captors and turn their fury back upon the disorganized defenders. Noble commanders, like the Vicomte de Rohan, fall where they stand, refusing to retreat from the ground they had cleared. This sudden reversal of fortune turned the eastern camp into a slaughterhouse, where the French hierarchy collapsed in a single hour. Why did the rigid structure of the four camps lead to the total destruction of the French host? While the eastern camp is being annihilated, the commanders of the other three positions remain idle because they were ordered never to leave their posts. They listen to the screams and the clash of steel, but do nothing, fearing that moving would leave them exposed to a secondary attack. This tactical paralysis allows the English to reorganize and move systematically to each camp, defeating them in detail. This adherence to strict orders ensured that the French numerical advantage was never actually utilized. Where did the garrison of the Black Castle fail their duke in his moment of need? Despite hearing the battle for hours and seeing the smoke rising from the eastern camp, the troops across the river never cross the bridge. They watch as the English forces methodically clear the other camps, their tactical rigidity turning into a fatal cowardice. When they finally realize that the Battle of La Roche-Derrien 1347 is lost, they simply abandon their fortifications and march away into the distance. This abandonment left Charles of Blois alone to face the consequences of his failed strategy. How did the capture of the Saint of Brittany finally bring the bloody siege to an end? Charles fights with a suicidal bravery, suffering 17 separate wounds before he is finally cornered and forced to yield his sword. He is transported as a prisoner to the Tower of London, his cause shattered, and his army destroyed by a force less than half its size. The memory of this night would linger as a testament to the power of professional tactics over traditional chivalric pride. The deeper struggle with the papacy and the legends that grew from these conflicts will be the subject of another episode. Which deep historical mystery should we dive into in our next investigative journey? If this analysis of the Battle of La Roche-Derrien 1347 helped you understand the mechanisms of medieval tactical evolution, then your support is what keeps this research moving forward into the shadows of the past. Please subscribe using the QR code visible on your screen to join our community and continue the series. This simple action ensures you never miss a decisive moment in history.